I was expected to show up in the same way that I did before. And then when I wasn't, there was a lot of pressure of, well, this is who you were, and you should just be showing up this way anyways. I had struggled, and I had actually wondered, is God punishing me? And that was a really hard way to start motherhood. My circumstances, my situation has changed. My body has changed. Our schedule has changed. Our sleep has changed. That's okay. All of those changed. But the call of God on my life has not changed.
Do you have a sense of who you are but struggle to be consistent with your identity? Are you tired of reaching to meet others' expectations of you? And do you desire just to show up honestly in your life, exactly where you're at? Well, hi, I'm Kristen Zuray, founder of the Abbi Project, author and Christian life coach. And I have Abbi DeWitt here with me today, and we're going to be talking about living authentically, especially after a trauma. So that way you can learn how to be yourself honestly and confidently. So Abbi, go ahead and introduce us a little bit more to yourself.
Well, hey everyone. Yes, I am Abbi DeWitt, and despite our different last names, I actually am one of Kristen's daughters. And I've been working for Kristen for a few years now in the design aspect of the Abbi Project, and I'm currently working towards becoming a life coach in human flourishing. Outside of working on this podcast and business, I'm married to my handsome husband, Josiah, and I'm a mom of 2.
Yes, and they are sweethearts. I love them. But yes. Okay, I'm definitely biased.
Little biased, yeah.
So Abbi, as we're diving into the topic of authenticity, can you tell us a little bit more about that experience and why it's a passion for you?
Yeah, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to take a deep personality exam from a class a church I had hosted, and that was based off of a class created for several churches. This class dove into helping you discover what your core values are, and I had found that my top core value is actually authenticity. This really connected so many past struggles for me and explained a lot of passions that I currently have. So when researching authenticity for this, I had found out that the definition of authenticity is both the quality of being true, valid, and real, and also being authoritative. So the way I see it is it's living the truth with authority.
Wow, that is very interesting. I guess that would happen if you're confident in who you are. Then you would have that a good authoritative presence. So yeah. Okay. So Abbi, was there a time in your life when you did experience a trauma and your authenticity and the way you were living it was being questioned?
Yes, absolutely. So when I had first moved to Spokane after graduating college, I had gotten really involved in everything I was doing. Both in my work, I had a busy schedule. At my church, I had a busy schedule. I was very passionate about helping young adults and teaching them more of who God was. And so at that time, I actually run young adult game nights. Every month, we'd pack this house, your house. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
So much fun. I did feel bad, though, about we would keep you guys up till 2 a.m. playing worship music. But
honestly, I loved it. I loved every moment.
Oh, yeah, that's so
getting
good.
Getting to fall asleep with all the worship music, I loved it. So
it was great. It was really special. That was just a beautiful time in life. And at that time, my schedule was so full. So it felt so flourishing, and I really had tied that to a huge part of my identity of, wow, I get to do all these things. And my husband and I fell in love. We began dating and got married pretty fast. And it was just a little, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Oh, gosh. But we had quite a whirlwind romance. And Josiah and I, we had become pregnant very fast into marriage. It was quite a surprise.
Yes. Do you know what I did?
What did you do?
Dad and I, we went out and we bought a bag full of chocolate after you guys left and after you told us that you were pregnant. Oh, yeah.
Ate the bag.
Chocolate pie, chocolate candy, anything chocolate.
Anything chocolate.
Anything chocolate. And we sat there and just gorged ourselves in chocolate.
Well, I imagine it must have been quite stressful. You know, your 21-year-old daughter gets married and then, 5 weeks later comes and tells you, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
We're having a baby.
It was.
And you're not even 50.
Right.
You know?
And we were still in the process of planning another wedding for Anna.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I sometimes forget about that. And then I remember I was pregnant at my sister's wedding.
That's
and
right.
we only got married a couple months apart. So.
Exactly.
Yes. And so we had gotten pregnant with our first child. And our birth and our pregnancy, I went from being somebody who is very high capacity and known in every environment that I was in as being a high capacity person who is always doing things, always reaching out to people, planning events, lifting things, stacking chairs, to then all of a sudden I have a really difficult pregnancy. My baby actually sat on the main artery in my body. And do you remember I couldn't drive? So I couldn't even drive without beginning to faint. My eyes would start going dark. I couldn't hear. I had to literally lay on my side for most of the rest of my pregnancy. I'd say at least, 13, 14 weeks of my pregnancy.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, very difficult. And obviously, that came with me having to say no and step down to a lot of things. Not because those things weren't still a part of who I was, but because in that season, I had no capability of showing up in the same way that I used to as a single, very not pregnant woman. And then when we had delivered our son, we had a very difficult delivery. I had essentially gone through both versions of birth. We had the whole pushing experience, ended up in emergency C-section. Our kiddo was in the NICU for a little matter of time, a couple weeks, and I myself was actually hospitalized and honestly released a little earlier than I probably should have been, had complications coming home, and we had gone through that. And in that time in the hospital, my husband and I, one day when we had a really difficult conversation with a medical provider about our son, we had sat and we literally cried out to God and realized we had felt so far away from him in that moment. Even though we knew he was there, it was so hard to feel him because we were in truly the depths of trauma. And I really had begun to understand and resonate with that Psalms. I believe it's Psalms 118 or Psalms 18. I forget if there's a one in there or not. Where David's saying, and I crawled out from the depths and you rescued me. And I understood being in the hospital room what the depths looked like and felt like, and feeling stuck and not sure if you're going to go home or if your baby is going to be okay. And coming back to the environment where I used to be so high producing and so active in, after having gone through that, it was very difficult because at the time, some of the people in the environment that I was in, they didn't see the depths that I had fallen into. Just as David's followers didn't see David in the cave. They remembered David fighting Goliath. And I was expected to show up in the same way that I did before. And then when I wasn't, there was a lot of pressure of, well, this is who you were, and you should just be showing up this way anyways. Like, despite having your difficult pregnancy, despite your birth trauma, oh, you know what? People go through hard births. It's fine. You don't need to do anything about it. And getting brushed off. And I began to have a struggle because I so badly wanted to show up as authentically as I was. And at that point, the truth was I was broken. Literally, my body had been nearly cut in half. Yeah. And I had been trying to figure out, I couldn't even eat at the time. And so trying to show up and plan meals and events for young adults, it was something I was passionate about. But at that time, that wasn't how I could show up.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of grace was there
I
or
would say
compassion?
no. Yeah, I would say no. And I understand that sometimes it's very difficult when someone else is going through a trauma that you're not seeing the whole picture of to be adjusting of what's going on. But part of what God calls us to do as believers in Christ is to have joy when people are joyful and also mourn when they're mourning. And my husband and I were mourning. Yes, God saved our child's life. I know that He did that. He, I believe, saved my life. There were a lot of things that could have gone a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was truly a miracle. We had conversations with the nurses every day, and they would tell us, I can't believe what we're seeing happen. Like this, we have not seen this before. This should not be happening. Like something's going on. We're like, yes, that is the Lord our God. But sometimes it's hard for believers to want to do that or even be reminded because it can feel tough celebrating with somebody when you're not feeling celebratory. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard mourning with somebody when maybe you're not in that space as well. But that is something that we as believers are all called to do.
So you experienced this trauma, and you were this one person before the trauma, vivacious, busy, going about doing these things, party planner, and then you had this trauma, and then you entered into a new phase of life of motherhood while you're trying to heal. How did you just lose yourself completely, or were you able to maintain your identity, but just in a different way, or with working within the boundaries that was now set for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. It was something that I had wrestled with because I would talk to Josiah, and honestly, because of what I had been experiencing and even getting like cut out of meetings or told an hour before a meeting, hey, we're planning this big event that you're supposed to lead. We're planning it without you and forgot about that. Can you be here in an hour with your, less than 2-month or maybe less than 3-month-old baby? And if you've ever been a parent before, you know that leaving the house when your child's napping is very difficult. But I got there. I showed up, and then that's when I began realizing maybe I shouldn't have shown up and just let go of it. But I had struggled, and I had actually wondered, is God punishing me? And that was a really hard way to start motherhood, is wondering, is God punishing me? Because, yes, I have my child now, but caring for these young adults and seeing their successes and cheering them on and getting to talk to people about the Holy Spirit and praying with them was so near and dear to my heart that ministry honestly felt like a child to me too at that time.
Absolutely.
And I had been missing just connecting with some people who I really loved them. And I wondered, like, oh my gosh, is the Lord punishing me? And my husband was so gracious and so faithful in this time to remind me that, no, that's not true. It's not a punishment. This is a wonderful gift. And we needed to seek counseling. We met with a wonderful woman who was at the church at the time a few times, and she helped walk us through. And truly, she showed up as a shepherd, which was so wonderful for us at the time, and helped us begin to process the trauma, and helped me see that, no, this is a good thing. And God's just reshaping and showing you up and preparing you for a different way that this love will show up later. And so I had to begin to realize that because everything that I still was passionate about and still felt a major call to in my life was still there, and I was still a mom, like, it wasn't a punishment, but it was a redirection and a growth and a preparation to get into that further. And getting to receive some counseling on God is preparing you to show up differently, and He's going to use even the traumatic situation around the birth of your son. He's going to use delivering you from that to be able to talk with other moms and other women someday in the future. And it was amazing because that did happen. After going through that traumatic birth, the Lord has sent my husband and I multiple couples who have gone through really difficult birth situations as well. And we've gotten to understand what they've been through, gotten to go pray with them, celebrate with them when there's victories. And now we're showing up in young adults in a different way than I would say we did before. Like we're more on the sidelines than we were before, but the people who we do get to show up for, it's gone to a new depth of love and care. I didn't realize I was living in an identity crisis until adulthood hit hard. Fear, people-pleasing, and insecurity controlled my life. Everything changed when I began healing from my past and discovering who God says I am. Today, we help others do the same through one-on-one coaching. If you're feeling stuck, lost, or disconnected from who you were created to be, start with a free 30-minute session and take your first step toward freedom and purpose. Sign up at addieproject.org.
So your identity and your passions that God has brought onto you hasn't changed. It just looks a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question. How did you continue to live authentically with your situation, even while experiencing that outside expectation that was kind of trying to force you to be unrealistic in your life? How did you deal with that? How did you bring the balance or set boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think a huge part was being honest of, wait, my circumstances, my situation has changed. My body has changed. Our schedule has changed. Our sleep has changed. That's okay. All of those changed. But the call of God on my life has not changed. And understanding that God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so He was the consistent in our lives, and realizing, okay, if He's allowing these things to move around, but He's staying still, and His word spoken over me stay still, I need to press into Him more than I'm pressing into the people with the expectations, because that's just going to fuel a fear of man that I had in that season, and I don't think I recognized that I had it. And so it was starting to back away and go, no, it's okay that this has changed, but my worth and my value and my joy didn't change. I don't need to be disciplined for becoming a mom. I need to be shepherded into how do I be a mom and still honor God. And then why I also had to wonder, like, and question the authority that was in my life at the time, why did me becoming a mother shape my value? When we see all the value that God places over women when they're becoming moms, not that there's value when a woman isn't a mom or can't become a mom. Yeah. Obviously, we see the story of Hannah, long-term infertility, where God brought a good blessing. But I was reading in 1 Timothy, I believe it's chapter 1 or chapter 2, where it says that women might be saved through pregnancy and through delivery. And it was this really cool, it's not talking about salvation being saved, but it's just talking about there's a special space where God moves in women through this. And so I had to begin wondering and questioning, is it God that's putting me in a box because I became a mom and telling me that I'm no longer going to serve the purpose, or is He mistreating me? Or is there another alternative thing going on here? And so it was pressing into God and realizing, no, I have to press in further and harder into this motherhood journey and this healing space, because anytime I try to press in and cross into an inauthentic area of, oh, I'm going to sit on the floor for a few hours for an event and pretend like I didn't have a C-section very recently, that ended up wrecking me. And then when it wrecked my body, it also hurt my soul, and it hurt my ability to show up as a wife. And when I kept trying to do things where it's clear that I was not able to at that time, I was walking outside of what I was called to in that season.
Yeah. So how did you set that boundary with other people then?
Yeah. Well, it was really, really awesome getting to talk to the counselor, the woman who counseled us at that time, and then also talking to wise counsel, I'd say, which I would consider that was a lot of the conversations that you and I had where you used some of your trauma coaching, which let me tell you guys, as somebody, even though I'm your daughter, you've definitely used your trauma coaching skills on me, and it was so incredibly helpful
That's
at
good.
the time. I'm like, yes, Kristen, no. And you allowed me to start thinking more of, okay, what is God really doing here? And if all children are a gift and a blessing, there's a gift and a blessing here to be had in this season. Why is joy being robbed from this? And where is the enemy working if joy is coming out of something that God promised is a wonderful thing? And so sitting down through that, and I even had a friend who as well at that time, she met with me. She would come over anytime Josiah had to go to work on the weekend. She was faithful to come over and help me with my baby and newborn and walk me through some of the trauma.
Nice.
And so really getting to talk about where I really was at with a few close people helped bring clarity to, oh, I'm still who God said I was. I'm just in a growing learning season because becoming a mom changed me in a lot of ways, but for the better. Yeah. And it was really helpful getting to have people push me into seeing that.
Yeah, that's quite the story of, walking through that trauma and trying to understand who you still are and how do you live within the new boundaries that God has given to you, while people are still maintaining their same expectations of you without them making the adjustment, and having to realize then that your calling is from God and you need to listen and follow that calling, not listen to other people's expectations of you. And that's how you can move forward and be authentic, by setting those boundaries, saying no, but also coming to a place of honesty with yourself and saying, okay, this is a change, but it's a good change. It's not a punishing change. So as we start wrapping up, can you share with other people just how to be authentic?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple steps here, and I've mentioned the first one a few times, but you got to be honest about what's going on. You got to shine the light in the darkness, and the darkness has to flee. And so if you sit there in the trauma and in what you're going through, you're not going to be able to be authentic, and you're not going to experience freedom. The Bible clearly says that the truth sets you free. And so when you're not acknowledging, this is how I'm really feeling, you're going to be enslaved in the trauma and stuck in patterns and have no healthy boundaries. Which leads me to the next point. You got to set boundaries. When we had found out 8 months after we had given birth to our oldest that we were pregnant again, we were so excited, but immediately my husband and I had addressed that we need to set firm boundaries right away, because there's no way I'm letting the enemy move and take any joy from this season. And so we set boundaries immediately of, hey, we're not doing all these things this pregnancy. When I am postpartum, I am not scheduling meetings. All of the above. And just getting to send really positive boundaries helped us have a wonderful experience. The next thing is practice. It's okay if it's not easy day one, but you got to keep practicing and putting yourself in scenarios where you need to be authentic. Joshua 1:9 says, "Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous?" And so it's a command to be strong and courageous. And so hiding from what's really going on in your life is just going to fuel fear. So you have to just start practicing. Practice writing out on paper if you need to. This is how I'm feeling today. And asking God to bring truth to those feelings.
Very true.
And then next leads to my next step 4. Press into God and ask Him how He wants you to show up each day. After all, He created us, so He knows who we are even more than we do. Ask the one who designed you, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to show up in this season? Because when my husband and I began doing that, we started experiencing so much more freedom and started getting to stop, for me specifically, stop beating myself up, thinking I was being punished for something, but getting to walk out in the freedom that Christ gave us. And then step 5, trust that God holds the most fulfilling life for you. So living the way that he asks you to live will be fulfilling. John 10:10 says, I have come so that they might have life and have it in abundance. So when you're going through a new trauma or something where things are changing and you're wanting to show up authentically, just remember that whatever you're going through, on the other side, there will be an abundance from whatever fruit is going to come out of that. But that's only when you walk with the Lord and let him lead you in that struggle and in that hardship.
Wow, that's so good, Abbi. Just thank you so much for sharing your story and just sharing your journey of trying to figure out how to live truthfully and honestly beside, in the sight of God and man, and doing that. So thank you so much. If you are struggling with understanding who you are and how to live authentically, come talk to one of our coaches at the Abbi Project. We would love to be able to help you, love to show you how to live life simply and also in step with who you are and in your purpose. So come check us out at theabbiproject.org. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Before you go, if this episode spoke to you, take 30 seconds and share it with someone who may be seeking identity healing. Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It really encourages us to know this podcast is helping you. And friend, don't just listen and move on. Sit with it. Let it challenge you. Let it shift something in you this week. Stay rooted in truth because that's where your real identity is. And I'll meet you back here for the next episode.